Hello everyone and welcome to another 2v2 showdown featuring myself and Italian Spartacus facing off again against Dov Plays and John Ton of Total Brohammer. So this is going to be relatively similar to the last match you guys saw in regards to the army compositions. In this game, I'm going to be controlling only infantry. So I'm playing Musion, led by the Red Duke, and I basically just have a whole front line of Graveguard with great weapons. I think I have a couple Cairn Wraiths because we are facing off against basically just the Horde. So it's just going to be like Green Tide, and I think there's also Skaven over there. Yeah, it looks like Skaven. So having these like units that have armor piercing against Black Orcs will be pretty useful, and also against very low leadership units that pretty much the Greenskins and Skaven are known for. The Fear and Terror should be pretty strong. So I have the entire front line. You can see it's just Skeleton Warriors, Graveguard, I do have a Banshee, the Red Duke, a couple Fellbats, and then I decided just for the laughs and gaffs to throw in the Black Coach. And all jokes aside, I actually really like the Black Coach in the Greenskin matchup, and it's not bad against the Skaven, but Warp Lightning Cannons and things like that can really punish it. But the mighty Black Coach does ride forth, and you can see Italian Spartacus in the back is going to be controlling Grail Knights, so he has all the cav and mobility covered, which is definitely cool, and I really like playing 2v2s in this format because it really allows you to accentuate the strengths of these respective factions, which is pretty neat. So he does have a Grail Knights, and we wanted to experiment with Lance Formation in this game, but you can see the Warp Lightning Cannon already taken out 7 of these Knights right here, which is brutal. But he has Lance Formation, which has had its speed penalty removed, definitely quite a bit stronger. So he has 2 Grail Knights over here. In the back, he does have a bunch of Quest Knights and Grail Guardians, who he's going to be sending right up the pipe to accentuate our frontal force. So like I said before, we're facing off against John Ton of Total Brohammer and Dov Plays here, and they're going to be, I'm not sure who was playing who, but regardless, we do have the Skaven, so Gutter Runners with Poison here in the front line, the Greenskin Infantry Corps probably quite a bit better, so the Black Orcs here are going to be mixing with the Warlords boys and the 8-peak Loonies over here, and as far as leadership, he does have the Hogmaster, so there's going to be some squeal and pig action in this game, going to be a good time. For the Skaven, they do have a Warlord on a Bonebreaker, and I think it was Dov Plays who was playing the Skaven. He has 2 groups of Rat Ogres, a couple Warp Lightning Cannons, and definitely, yeah, these cannons are going to be really scary against our army composition for sure. The Black Coach is probably trembling in fear. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now, I'm just flying my Fellbats over, just looking for an opportunity to potentially shut down his Warp Lightning Cannon. Italian Spartacus is going to be pulling his cav up and around the flank, but already taking some massive damage. This is brutal, because these guys have physical resist, but the Warp Lightning Cannons, as you guys know, do magic damage, so that's going to be very effective. But you can see there is a bit of an opening here, so some of these troops did pull forward, so the Fellbats, I'm basically just going to send them in, because we need to buy time for these cav. They're just taking heavy damage, and honestly, I don't really care if I lose the Fellbats. In the meantime, on the far side, Italian Spartacus is coming around with some of these Grail Knights who are going to be hammering this flank. Hopefully, they should have a good matchup over here. I mean, it's mostly just Skaven Slaves and some Forest Goblins. Although it looks like Dov Plays does have Clan Rats, he's going to be pulling over as well as Rat Ogres, so there's definitely going to be a fight on our hands. So the Black Coach is just kind of riding dirty through some of these Gutter Runners, probably racking up a couple kills. Actually, no kills yet, but it should over the course of a long battle here. And you can see the Vampire Count's forces are going to be moving forth. The Red Duke, I did overcast a summon, wanted to get some Skeleton Warriors and have them go shut down that Warp Lightning Cannon, realizing that was super important, but for the most part, this is a good engagement. You want the Cairn Wraiths fighting Black Orcs, so the Black Orcs are, going to be taking armor piercing damage, and they're going to be fighting feral units. Italian Spartacus' cav in the front line are just hammering home, just getting in there, trying to push through the front line, but the Black Orcs, surprisingly resilient for sure. So we do, I think, get that Warp Lightning Cannon temporarily shut off. Italian Spartacus parking in the back with some mounted DM and waiting, but we are also taking massive casualties. Pretty nice Lance Formation charge coming in from Italian Spartacus here. The Grail Knights just slamming into these Rat Ogres on the side. But there is a Warlord with a Bonebreaker, and then there's also Gutter Runners with Poison, who are just going to be kind of withering these guys down and probably doing some pretty substantial damage. So some of these cav in the middle have broken through the Grail Guardians. We were able to win this kind of center engagement versus the Warlords boys. And you can see the Black Coach just kind of riding dirty, they're just hunting the foul Skaven. But a very close fight so far. Bounce Power is pretty dead even. The Skeleton Warriors do get on top of that Warp Lightning Cannon, which was nice, but you can see that Dov is going to be using his Warlock Engineer with that Mortis Engine effect to drain them off. And on the far side, it's getting a little bit crunk. So it looks like John Ton was able to catch Italian Spartacus with these Grail Knights and get a Smoke Bomb and probably clear them off, and just like a sheer volume of numbers, and there was probably a Foot of Gork. I hope I didn't miss a Foot of Gork. I'll have to ask everyone about that, but hopefully not. But it looks like some of the Broken Tusk Mob and the Goblin Big Boss, in conjunction with Spears and Rat Ogres and the support of this Plague Priest, most likely who's using Wither, is able to kind of win the fight over here very, very decisively. On the side of the battlefield, it's going a little bit better for us, but you can see the front line is going well, so we've won that for the most part. But the cav fight is a little bit dicey. I did have some Fellbats, but I wasn't able to effectively shut down those Warp Lightning Cannons like I wanted to, and ultimately we're being pushed back a little bit right now. And we did, obviously the cav fight being that, Italian Spartacus invested all of his Quest Knights and Grail Knights in the front to help me win that engagement, but we have kind of conceded the outside since we didn't invest as many resources in that particular area. So in the front, you can see some Grail Guardians or Grail Knights or Grave Guard. Oh man, just has nothing to do with any of the aforementioned things. They do get through here. They're going to be pushing back onto the Warp Lightning Cannon, going to be able to shut that down and getting a nice round on this Warlock Engineer. I could have sworn these guys had more armor, but I guess they only have 45. But still a pretty close fight. The bouncing power a little bit in our opponent's favor. You can see, I think they were chasing off the mighty Black Coach, so the Black Coach is just against the world here. So it's just, oh, look at the Grim Reaper just cleaving some of those goblins as it retreats. But Dob plays using his Warlord and Rat Ogres, and then Jonton sends some Nazi Skulkers, so some very good teamwork from these guys, because the Smoke Bomb probably allowed them to get some pretty substantial damage. On the low ground, though, it's okay. We got zombies. We got a couple Cairn Wraiths left. We do also have this Banshee, which is going to be tough for them to kill. And, of course, the Red Duke is just a terror in the night, just summoning zombies and healing, and just, he's definitely a very cool lord for sure. But I was definitely glad I put him on a horse. Had I put him on his, like, flying steed, he probably would have gotten sniped out of there by those Warp Lightning Cannons. But he's doing a pretty good job against these Rat Ogres, just kind of leading his people. There's a nice charge right there. He should be able to take out a couple of these models. So on the far side, Italian Spartacus doing a really good job. He does have his Cav, the Fey Enchantress, and this is always really strong if you can have like a Bretonnian Death Star with the Fey Enchantress, because she's going to provide -5 melee attack and Mortis Engine. So these guys, they should be getting that negative melee attack. And maybe that's something that was putting them a bit higher, but they're down to 36 right now. You can see the forces of Bretonnia are kind of getting swarmed by Biggins, Nasty Skulkers, and it looks like over here the Hog Lord himself, the Baconator, is taking a little bit of heat from my Graveguard with great weapons, but there's a horde of stuff coming over the hill. You can see the Broken Tusk Mob is going to be pushing down, just lancing into these Vampire Count's troops, I should say Mucione, and then the Skaven Slaves are just throwing their boulders. Looks like Italian Spartacus is going to be dropping probably a Chalice of Potions right there, but I think that Jonton and Dov were able to react before, and that a little bit of friendly fire right on top of those Quest Knights, but it didn't do too much damage. So at this point, I was sending over the Sternsmen and some reinforcements, and, you know, the battle looks pretty good for us. I mean, we have a decent pocket of troops, but this was something that we didn't take into account. So they sent a ton of stuff to chase down the Black Coach. So he sent a Warlord, he sent Rat Ogres, and there was also some troops over here that were chasing the Black Coach down, these Gutter Runners. But once all this stuff comes back to the main battlefield, it's going to be really tough for Italian Spartacus and I. So right now, I'm just kind of riding the Red Duke around, trying to shut down this Warp Lightning Cannon with summons and things like that. We do have some Skeleton Warriors and Graveguard pushing in. But you can see Dob Plays is going to be using that Plague Priest very effectively. It does have a Mortis Engine effect of its own to kind of drain and really protect this high-value target, because if we can't shut this down, it's going to give them so much Overwatch. And a lot of the troops we have left are pretty elite. I mean, Sternsmen, Grail Guardians, things like that, so we really need to protect those expensive troops. So right now, the bounce power is relatively in our opponent's favor here. Dob Plays and Jonton doing a very good job. I'm trying to assassinate the Hog Lord, so I do use Elsif, and the Red Duke has gotten in there in a duelist situation, but unfortunately the Warp Lightning Cannons are back online, and the cannons are shooting at the Red Duke, so I'm doing some pretty good damage, but I do get some decent harass on the Hogmaster Zero here, but he's going to be able to squeal away on his Hog, and the Red Duke is going to be hot in pursuit, but you can see there's Nasty Skulkers. Italian Spartacus coming in to try and help me and, you know, clear up some of those Nasty Skulkers, but the Red Duke does kind of get pinned there. And was that a Smoke Bomb? It looks like Jonton does drop a Smoke Bomb. Very, very good teamwork and synergy right there, slowing me down by 76% speed. 76% speed. So I am pretty close to the Hog. You can see he's pinned by some of these Grail Guardians who do have the favor of the Fae, and Hogmaster actually took quite a bit of damage here. But like I mentioned to you guys on this side of the battlefield, like, it was looking good, but then, you know, we looked over here and we're like, oh man, there's still a ton of stuff coming. Like, we thought this was like the last battle and this was going to determine everything, but no, not at all. There's Gutter Runners with poison here, there's Rat Ogres, there's a Bonebreaker, there's a Warp Lightning Cannon with all 3 of its models online just shooting at us, and there was a lot of pressure coming. I had a Banshee over here that could potentially do some disruption, and obviously it's going to take them like a year to kill this Banshee, so they just ignore it. But this is the fight of fights, and you can see there's a lot of Mucione yellow, as well as some Bretonnian, the Bretonnian colors over here still fighting. But once this force is able to get over here and unify with the rest of their kind of remaining forces, it's going to be pretty tough for us. So the Hogmaster here, it looks like he's going to be riding around casting some sort of foul voodoo witchcraft on some of our troops up here. I think he was actually just casting it. There we go. And it looks like the Plague Priest is probably going to be summoning some rats, which is definitely good. Going to help kind of bog these guys up and allow this Plague Priest to do a lot more draining. That was also another issue. They had several very powerful units. So Plague Priest has 100 armor. It's a large entity unit. We didn't really have the stopping power. I mean, we had the Red Duke. We have some Knights of Bretonnia, but you can see they're kind of getting worn thin. Fey Enchantress Drain is doing very good against Clan Rats. And also, you can see the Hog Lord coming in. So I pop Elsif on him, hoping the Fey Enchantress could maybe Kamehameha on. You know, a little bit of Dragon Ball Z action. But yeah, the Hog is just kind of standing firm. You can see he has Fist of Gork, and here we go. And so he's just a combat monster right now, rocking 100 plus melee attack. And at this point, the bounce of power for the first time in the battle It's just too far out of our control. I don't think we're going to be able to come back. You can see on the far side my Banshee. Banshees are good against these factions. Skaven have more magic options, but against Greenskins, I mean, other than Fist of Gork, which is a very niche kind of has to be well-timed type ability, you know, the Banshee can be pretty strong. So you can see she's occupying these forces, but there's just too much. There's a Goblin Big Boss here. The Warp Lightning Cannon, it looks like, is maybe running out of ammunition. Let's see how much crew is left. Yeah, looks like they're probably still going to be able to fire. No, they're out of ammo. But yeah, the Red Duke is going for one last final hunt, so I was like, all right, let's see if the Duke can catch the hog. But you can see that he actually just grabs him with his Plague Priest and like impales him on the front of this tractor thing and is able to hold the Red Duke in place, which is pretty ridiculous. The Fey Enchantress doing her best to, you know, cycle charge and get her draining effects, but it's going to be all she wrote. You can see the Bonebreaker and his Rat Ogre contingent is going to come in, so very well played to these guys. It was an incredibly close match. We actually played 3 matches that day, so I'll make sure to cast the 3rd game in the next couple days and try and get it up. They were all really fun, but based on your guys' feedback, so I saw in the last video, a lot of you guys like the 2v2 format when it's like, kind of like played in this tactical way, because I feel like watching 2v2 where it's like, you know, for example, you have like just a Dwarf player and like a, you know, let's say an Empire player, and they're playing like just on their own. It's like 2 separate 1v1s, isn't as fun. But I do see the appeal of having 2v2s where it's, you know, 2 players kind of synergizing as one, taking advantage of the, you know, the strength of Vampire Count's infantry with fear and terror, and then using like Bretonnian Cav to really kind of, you know, take advantage of the mobility in the open field. And you know, and of course they did the same thing. Greenskin infantry is obviously really good. You know, the Skaven have access to good artillery and range units and utility. So I thought that was really fun. So I will be doing a 2v2 tournament. So what we're going to be doing is probably grabbing a couple teams, and it's not going to be like a live cast thing. What we're going to do is like, because it's always hard. Like some of the feedback I've also received from some of the people I've asked to be in it is that it's going to be hard if we do it in one day to have like all like 8 or 10 or how many ever people are in it, like there and ready to play. You know, things are going to come up. People are going to have to go do things. But what we're going to do is record it as like best of 3 pre-recording. So I'm going to record it like localized, upload it. So like this is round 1, this team versus this team. And then, you know, at the end of that game, I'll put up like the bracket so you guys can see the standing based on all that. And I think that would be really fun. And over the course of like a week or 2, we can have the entire tournament, which I think would be pretty darn cool. So again, very well played to John Ton and Dob Plays. They definitely had some really clutch plays there, and you know, some spooky Warp Lightning action and just all kinds of madness going on. But it was fun. I liked the Vampire Count's infantry. I felt like they really performed. But something that was a little bit tough is that Italian Spartacus basically invested like half of his army in supporting my fight. So that was the reason that went well. But then we were a little bit loose on the flanks, and they were able to really kind of control that area. So man, it's so cool with all these variables of 2v2 and like the tactics that could potentially be done between factions. But yeah, very well played to all these guys here. Make sure to go check out Italian Spartacus on his YouTube channel, John Ton. His channel name is Total Brohammer, and of course Dob Plays, the mighty Dob Pays himself. His channel name is Dob Plays, so make sure to check him out. So thanks again, guys, for playing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this match, and we'll see you guys next time. Have an excellent night and take care.